doing a rerun because we did a live and then Instagram wouldn't let us upload it into our social media, wouldn't let us post it, right?
Yeah.
So we're gonna just do a regular video, but we're bringing you the same information. So today we're gonna be talking about permanent buydowns, and we'll talk about why we call it a permanent. To get started, I'm gonna just go right into it.
Yep,
I can't remember what we did on the live, but we'll figure it out. Okay. So we did this. Hopefully you can see it. If you can't, let us know and we can screenshot it. I personally wrote everything down because I personally like everything written out. People start talking to me about numbers, my eyes start glossing over, and I don't pay attention. So I'm a visual, I have to see it on paper. So this is why I did it this way. Okay, so permanent buy down. We're gonna get a little bit more into that, but there's been a lot of concern about the interest rates because rates, and I was even shocked today. We had a conversation with the lender, and rates, the average rate was like 6.99%, which is crazy, which was about a percent higher than what I thought they were. So I guess it's really, the market's been really bad in the last couple of weeks. I mean, I know it, but I didn't know it affected it that much.
And something that we had mentioned in the live was that purchase or sales prices, homes are not being listed for any lower. Actually, they increased from August to September, and they've increased since last September 2021. So
right. So yesterday I did stats. We're sitting out. We actually did a private video that's not going to be public to some of our clients that have requested these updates. And so I did some really in-depth stats. It actually took me like 5 hours to do. But the first thing I did is I broke down August and September of 2021, and I compared it to August and September of 2022. And, you know, the interest rates last year at this time were in the high 2s, low 3s. They've more than doubled. They haven't tripled, but they're more than doubled. And with that being said, the market hasn't adjusted that much. So when you compare the listings are down, but housing prices are up in 2022 compared to 2021. So the sales are down, but it's okay because the amount of listings are down too. Now, if the sales were down and the listings were higher than 2021, then we'd be really seeing.
So like more inventory.
Yeah, more inventory and then less sales. Then we would have
a shift,
a larger shift in the market. We're not seeing that right now. So I was really shocked about that the housing prices were actually higher in August and less inventory. So buyers are, feeling really reluctant to move forward. So that's why we decided to do this because.
Well, and they're also being affected because if you were pre-approved, a couple months ago, and we're looking
6 months ago.
But even a couple months ago, it wasn't as high as 6.99%. That's affecting your buying power. That's affecting how much in payment you can afford, which affects your purchase price.
Which affects how much you qualify for.
So that's where the interest rate buy down comes into play.
And it's actually a tool to be a little bit more creative for what you're trying to do, what your goals are. So looking at this, and before I get started, if you want any of that information that I just talked about, reach out to us, give us a call, text, email, private message us on Instant Messenger or whatever, and let us know, and we can get your name on that list because it's not going to be a public video. It's, like I said, it's actually private to selective clients who've requested it. So on a typical FHA loan, right? This is a government-backed insured loan. You can actually you can request a 6% seller credit back from the seller. They allow it. But I'll go into that in a couple pages after I go through the flip chart. So on a $700,000 purchase price, which is in Salinas area will get you a really decent home. With a FHA loan, you're looking at 3.5% down payment. So you would need to come in with $24,500 as a down payment, okay? Your payment with the current rate that was quoted to me today at 6.99 interest rate would be $4,568.15, which is, you're probably thinking, that's high, right? We're going to show you ways to kind of help that, and then also look at the numbers to how it actually will benefit you. So buy down, difference between temporary versus permanent. So there's a lot of talk on social media right now about these temporary buy downs. So what is a temporary buy down? Well, it's a great tool depending on your situation, but it's temporary. You, the loan that we talked about this morning with the lender was a 2-1 buy down. So the first year, for example, your interest rate is only like approximately 3.99, whereas the day rate today on a 30-year fixed is 6.99. So you get almost 50%. So if your payment is $4,568, it's going to be less than $3,000 a month, which is more doable. And then the second year, but that's only for 1 year. And then the second year it bumps up to like 4.99%. And then the remaining 28 years of that 30-year loan goes back up to the 6.99%. So Betty made a good point in our live about the qualification.
So again, interest rates affect how much your payment is going to be. So when you do the temporary buy down, even though you have that first year at the 3.99%, for example, you still have to qualify for the payment at the 6.99% interest rate. So it doesn't help you afford the home or qualify for the home. Mm-hmm. Whereas a permanent buy down will, because it's changing the overall interest rate for the entire 30 years mm-hmm. up front. So it's affecting how much your mortgage payment is overall, which will help you with your purchasing power.
And okay, so going back to this, so at today's rate of the 6.99, your payment's going to be the $4,568.50, correct? So the buy down. So you're going to ask the seller. Remember I said you can get up to a 6% credit from the seller. So let's just say 3%. So we're going to ask the seller for 3% credit back. What does that mean? Well, that's a $21,000 credit. So you're paying $700,000 for the house, but the seller's going to turn around and give you $21,000 back in escrow. So you're essentially paying $679,000 for that property, because that's going to be taken off the seller's net, right? So that with that $21,000 that you get back in escrow from the seller, you will buy down the rate. So in the temporary versus the permanent, you buy down the rate in the temporary, and it's the same cost. Mm-hmm. So you would still pay around $21,000 for those 2 years initial, but then you're going to bump up to that $699 rate. So to buy it down 1%, so to go from 6.99 down to 5.99, it's going to cost you $21,000, and that's going to adjust your payment down to $4,116.42. That's a $451.73 savings to you monthly. And you think, well, that's not really that much. Well, that's a car payment. And when we were talking, which I didn't write it here, we were talking about qualification. To qualify for an FHA loan, they look at your debt to income ratio, right? So I think she said 56%.
56%.
So your debt cannot be over 56% of what your income is. So if you're
including the mortgage payment.
That's mortgage, car payments,
minimum
credit card
payment,
payments,
credit cards,
everything, okay? Whatever shows up on your credit. And so your payment is, so if you are a $10,000 a month household, and 56% of that would be $5,600. Subtract this $4,100 payment, you would only have around $1,500 approximately to qualify for other payments. So if you're a two-person household and you both have a car payment at $750 a month, that's your $1,500 payment. Plus your mortgage, that wipes you out. You might be over the 56% debt to income ratio. So $450 doesn't seem like a lot, but for qualification, it is a lot, okay? And then we're also gonna work some numbers that actually show you how much that $451 adds up. So here's your payment changes. So you go from the $4,568.15 to the $4,116.42, which is at the 5.99 after buying down the rate 1%. That's a difference of the $451.73 per month. Times that by 12, you're going to save $5,420.76 a year in savings. Times that by 30 years of the loan, because it's a 30-year loan. For a 30-year loan, you're going to save over $162,000. So that is a huge savings. Now, the average homeowner stays in the home 5 to 10 years. So it might not be realistic that you're going to get that whole savings. Betty made a comment on the live that even if the seller doesn't allow you or doesn't agree to give you that $21,000 credit, maybe you can get a gift or you have extra reserves that you can use to buy down that rate. Because if you average it, you're going to save $162,000.
So $21,000 is going to save you over $162,000
over the life
over 30 years.
So if you're really planning on staying in the home for 2 to 5 years, like I said, average homeowner stays in their home 5 to 10. If you're only going to stay there 2 to 5, it's not going to be worth it probably for you to take the money out of your account and pay that $21,000 to buy the rate down. But because of the way the market is and because of buyers qualifying, it's pretty common right now to ask a seller to give those credits and to assist. But it's up to the seller to decide if they're
willing to do that.
If they're willing to do that. Okay? So another thing that I want to kind of bring out is a lot of buyers are, well, $4,100 is still a lot of money. You're right, it is. But do you realize that it's tax deductible? Now,
the interest is.
The interest is. Disclaimer, I'm not a tax person. You need to get tax advice. And we always have resources, people that we can refer you to if you don't know who to ask. But, for example, that new payment, $4,116.42 times 12 months, comes to $49,397.04 that you're paying a year in mortgage payments. You're like, wow, that's a lot. Yeah, but $42,000 of that is tax deductible, approximately $42,000. So you would not have this tax deduction if you were not paying that mortgage. So looking at rent versus rent, an average right now, which I think is low, $3,000 a month to rent a property in Monterey County. Right now, you can't rent a room in somebody's house for less than $1,200. So $3,000 I think is a pretty realistic number for rent. Do you agree?
Yeah.
So $3,000 times 12 months. So you stay there a year. You're paying that landlord $36,000. This is not tax deductible. This is. So, and now figure it out. Average tenant stays in their home for 5 years. I know from when I started renting until I bought a house, I rented for probably about 15 years. So that $36,000 a year times 5 years, if you only rent for 5 years, you will be paying your landlord $180,000 that is not tax deductible. This is tax deductible. Also, I've had clients talk to their tax accountants and be able to adjust their withholdings on their paycheck and what they bring home. So for example, maybe they claim 1 at a single rate because they don't maybe have any dependents and they don't really have any tax deductions, so they pay a lot out in taxes. they will actually be able to, I've seen where they were able to adjust their check stub, their withholdings, and bring more money home weekly. And that offsets the amount of paying the rent to the mortgage. So it's a benefit. I think that's, that's it. So we thought, let's move it back. We thought that was pretty interesting, and again, if you want any more additional information or you would like for us to sit down with you, what is your plan? Communicate. It's really good to communicate with your lender and your realtor and obviously your tax person on what your goals are and what you're trying to achieve. And I've been doing this for a long time. We have a lot of resources. We can try to be creative and try to be able to put you into a program that works for you, whether it's the temporary buy down or the permanent buy down. And I think that's it. And thanks for tuning in. This will be posted on our YouTube channel and our social media page. So if you have any further questions, please reach out to us. We post every Tuesday these videos because we want to incite, empower, and educate, and we want to get this information back to the community. So we're always open to meet with you and sit down and talk about your goals. So thanks again, and we'll see you next Tuesday.